Hello and welcome to Conversations with Gagan Mathur, where I talk about people, decisions, and outcomes. Modern digital products are doing more than just enabling users. They are executing decisions at speed, scale, and often these decisions are not interrupted by humans. Decisions that are about access, about risk, about eligibility, and about experience. More importantly, all this is made possible by AI. However, AI is not just doing this, they're also changing the basic nature of product leadership. In highly regulated environments, product decisions or these decisions are not only influencing growth matrices, they're also shaping how trust, accountability, and long term credibility is changing. So, the challenge today in front of a product leader is not about whether to adopt AI or not adopt AI, because that decision has largely been already taken. The real challenge in front of a product leader is how responsibility, how judgment, and how accountability will evolve when intelligence is embedded by default. And that would be the focus of my discussion today. I'm joined by Rucha Chaugule, who is a product leader with a decades of experience in designing and scaling digital products across fintech, insurance, wealth, and learning platforms. Rucha brings a very grounded and practitioner's lens around how AI is reshaping products or product decisions and why still domain depth, regulatory awareness, and human touch is required in designing systems that can be trusted. Rucha, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Gagan. Thank you. It's great to be here. I'm really looking forward for this conversation, especially, around how the product leadership is evolving as AI is making, more of a decisions that actually matters and that is happening these days. So thank you for having me again.
Yeah, really, it's a pleasure to have you here, Rucha. I have been looking forward to bring guests from different leadership domains, and it's really great to have you in this podcast. So let's start with something different because I do not want to directly jump into AI and future of product leadership. So let's
Sure.
start with your journey, right? Uh, I have seen that you have worked into multiple domains that are highly regulated and they're high impact domains, example insurance or wealth or
Mhm.
fintech, right? I myself have worked in fintech for a long time, so I can vouch for that. It's really regulated in domain. uh,
Yeah.
what I really want to understand from you is across these domains, what are those common challenges and problems that you have constantly encountered, irrespective of whether you're working in fintech or whether you're working in insurance or any other domain.
So when I look back across industries, Gagan, the problem that stated with me is trust. How organization designing the system that help people make confident decisions when the consequences can be wrong or can go wrong at very high level, whether it's money, your compliance, your learning outcomes, your risk. Users are always, or probably I say consistently asked for, the trust what they have made putting the decision. And that is not fully being incorporated. That is not fully seen. What interesting is here is like while technology keep changing, the underlying tensions what we have across the industry, they don't change. So the
Right.
real challenge is like it is never a lack of tools, or it was how the decisions were framed, explained and owned by your leaders or your product owners or your manager, or who's a person is taking those decisions specifically. As system become more complex with AI, the clarity often reduced rather than getting improvised.
Hmm.
One organizational pattern I've repeatedly observed that trust breaks down not because of the team's lack of intent or capability, but just because of the decisions of ownership gets fragmented.
Okay.
When accountability is diffused across function, the product feels uncertain, even if it is a technically sound. And
Yeah.
at a scale, great products aren't just well built. They meant to take responsibility reasonable, decision wise, that should be explainable, and trust that is deliberate rather than, we get assumed to it.
Yeah, that's true because even in my space where we work, cybersecurity and identity and access management, we talk a lot about trust because everything is built around trust, right? And if
Great.
there is no trust, then system does not behave the way it should be behaving, right? And it
Exactly.
actually it erodes the whole trust from the users. So considering that you have spent, more than a decade into this field of product management, I would just like to understand, rather, I'm very, very curious to understand from you that there was a time when AI was not the part of the mainstream in product teams, right?
Absolutely.
And those times, if I'm not wrong, decisions were slower, data
Correct.
that was presented were retrospective, right? So, in
Absolutely.
those times, what were your biggest limitations as a product owner?
So before the AI becomes a mainstream, or it is starting getting a mainstream, the biggest limitation I felt as a product owner was the latency. As you mentioned, that decisions were made retrospective with on the basis of data, survey
Yeah,
data, and
yeah,
the actions were taken according to that. The moment to influence the outcomes has to often, pass. The product explain in a past rather than shaping in the present.
yeah.
Most systems were driven by static things like rule based logic, while we gave a consistent data, some audit comfort, some rigid data, and team used to spend a lot of time running through the threshold, the expectations, the knowledge, what they the how the rule engine is supposed to be set up,
Hmm.
how we can quickly get it, the behavior and risk patterns to be evolved. The product would consistently trying to play up with the catch up to the expectation. Personalization was very limited at that point of time, because without a real time intelligence what has been included, we design for every average users. That meant very unnecessary friction, low risk users, signals and experience were safe, but it was not adaptive.
Yeah.
So what happened to compensate? The product team relied on the workarounds like manual reviews, periodic rules, offline analysis, operational buffers. You have your face-to-face interviews, feedbacks from your client, your customers. So over the time, product become operationally very heavy. Decisions become authoritative, lived up to the product itself.
Hmm.
And looking at all these things back, the core thing, what was the technology we were using, it was a decisions. Product executed rules, human carried judgment everywhere. So what happened, that contrast is what makes the shift of AI meaningful for me. Not
Yeah.
because of it is faster, but just it allows product to learn, adapt, take responsibility for decisions in a real time. And sometimes the pre-AI model is simply couldn't give you that kind of a support. So
Maybe
that
because
how it was. Hmm.
yeah, because we are using retrospective data or data which was already past due, right? So the product, by the time
Correct.
product is ready, is already not at par with the market, and some new products already have been launched, and you are,
Absolutely.
back in the race, right? So it's really
Absolutely.
interesting to see that AI is not only speeding up the things, but it's also making that decisions and deciding who or what makes decisions, right? Um, if I have to see that uh, in this AI era, so when did you first realize that AI is no longer supporting decisions, rather it is shaping the outcomes? When was that time, basically?
So for me, the first shift became during, the risk and fraud use cases where I was working. And AI initially introduced itself just to assist us. At first, the model surface score just to give a red flags, human made final, and the human used to make a final call.
Yeah,
It felt safe. It felt very familiar also. But over the time, gradually, what happened? The volume grew. The response time became critical. Those recommendations quietly turned into automated approvals, and all the blocks also, you can say. I- it wasn't a big announcement that just become a default, but decisions started happening, became happening in a real time without anybody explicitly clicking on the approve thing. And that was the moment I started realizing that AI wasn't helping people to decide anymore. It itself is deciding everything. And that's how it's changed. It showed up. I showed up as a product owner. I stopped thinking mainly about workflows or the screens or how it started thinking, how the decision, what are my decision boundaries, my confidence threshold, and what should be happen, if things goes wrong. Because if there is a human touch, we can at least look into that. It also raised a bar of on a responsibility. When outcome from a AI at a scale, you can't hide the behind process. You have to be comfortable owning that if it is not just a happy path. That realization has started with me and shaped me how I think about building a product, especially as I moved into more senior product things or other leadership roles.
Hmm.
So things
Yeah,
were quite okay, but it is now again who will take the responsibility.
correct. That's true. And in fact, when I go to different forums and I talk to a variety of leaders there, including product leadership, and also I really, there are a lot of buzzword around AI first product thinking.
Hmm.
And while I'm doing the discussion, I always think of a situation. Maybe I mean you can help me out. Have you ever encountered any AI driven projects or initiatives where it was struggling because domain experience or the regulatory context was missing? Can you recall of any such AI initiative?
Um, yeah, in my current project, the previous project, it's a very fresh one, although. So I've seen that the initiative struggles because the technology is not weak, but the domain understanding is not traveling to the particular model which we are trying to build in. One of the example I say that was like, onboarding or the KYC flow which we were building. The goal was very simple, to reduce the friction, approve the customer faster. From the tech point of view, everything was looking good. It was very strong model, very clean data, very good accuracy. It was great success on the paper. But slowly, I know what happened. The issue started showing up. Certain customer started being keep rejecting because although there were no fraudulent customers,
Yeah,
but they did not fit into the standard of the data what we have set it in the profile. Someone who has a regional document, someone with a regular irregular income, some other old users with the old aged customers, people with some unconventional jobs histories. The model started giving us a red flag, and the risk started rejecting them. Now, technically, the AI doing the exactly what is being trained to do.
yeah,
But as for the business and for the regulatory point of view, it was missing a potential point of entry, potential customers, right?
yeah,
In financial services, if you're rejecting a good customers again and again, it can be more, frustrating and letting the few risk over through one another. The balance what is matters, but it is just keep on happening. The risk was defined too narrow without throwing up the expectation or how human can probably would take a step in this. And what it made it more word scale,
yeah,
because in manual process, as I said, you have reviews to be done, you manually, you have at the periodical level, but obvious.
yeah,
But in AI, it's same blind spot. It's like thousands of customer instantly, and then when you have been a small operational issues, it become a system wide problem. Customer lost the trust, and internally people started questioning the product.
yeah,
So that's how, and that experience really shaped me. Like, I think about AI, I should think about AI. I strongly believe that AI is not going to fix, unclear thinking, or it amplifies it. If your assumption are wrong, obviously the AI. just take those wrong decisions faster and harder to notice. So today, when I am a part of AI discussions, what we are having and on the product management or the overall product,
Hmm.
I don't start by saying the things like, can we automate this? Or do we need to automate this? I should start saying that, do we fully understand the consequences if we do? Because
That's a
AI
good point.
capability is important, but domain judgment is what decisions where AI creates a real scale or long-term risk.
That's really a good question when you said that what do we want to achieve by automation? Should we really automate it? Because
Yeah,
I have seen, as I said, AI is a buzzword. So everyone wants to use the AI. And if you ask them, do you know why you want to use the AI? I think 50% of them will bring their hands down because they do not know why they want to use the AI. Because everyone is
correct.
saying, I want to use the AI. It's like herd instinct, right? And also, I mean, as I said, I have worked in this industry, fintech industry. So I can really vouch that if, like you said, customer loses the interest, the moment
Yeah,
that happens, customer, you are not only losing one customer, you're losing a bunch of customers because of words of mouth,
multiple.
right?
Yes,
One
yes,
person says,
yes.
so don't go to them. They do not have a, they don't not approve this thing and they'll not give you anything. So people start losing the interest in the bank or the any
Correct.
industry that you are in, right? So it's
And this happens not only to the physical, no, I will not only digital products. It happens to your physical products also.
correct.
Like in some time ago, there was some rumors or probably thing happened. Like Maggie has
Yeah,
some extra chemicals. People stop using that for a while.
yeah,
So, though it's not AI, but then like it's bad word of your
yeah,
marketing and people mouth to mouth publicity.
yeah. That's true. So I just want to pivot a little bit from our core discussion because when you were talking, I was thinking of a word called as compliance. And me being from identity and access management area, compliance is the core of it, at the core of it, right?
Yeah.
And I've seen most of the organizations take compliance as a late checkpoint thing, right? So we'll do it later on. Let's first do the technical part, then we talk about compliance. So if I have to look at you, like how has your thinking evolved, right, in using compliance as an input to product design rather than using it as a constraint to work around? Because
So,
typically, I think most of the people, technical teams, compliance for them is like we'll put it aside. Let's talk about it later on. First, do the main thing, right? Whereas
correct.
compliance has to be built inside the design. Otherwise, you will lose the whole, trust, or it will erode the trust, basically, right?
Perfect. Correct. So as you said, very correct. Even in my early careers, I've seen that, compliance was genuinely felt like something we'll dealt it at the end.
Yeah,
You just build the product and then we checked it whether it is passed or not. I saw how fragile that was made. Even if it is in terms of product, in terms of market, in terms of audit, s- we'll see it later. That kind of attitude everybody has in terms of compliance. But my thinking shifted to this when I realized that regulation and when you brought in early stage or your compliance brought in early stages, it actually sharpens the product decisions very quickly. It forces you to clarify around what is your intent, how the decision is going to be made, what you need to explain, where your accountability sits, and that clarity doesn't show team that that actually reduces the ambiguity also, right? I've seen the product scale faster when compliance were treated as a design input, when things like audit trails or consent or any decision logs were built in a flow from a day one. Expansion become easier. You are not retrofying controls of you're extending, and you already have a stable system when you when you actually deal with the compliance. So for me, the distinct or the distinction between a compliance led and compliance aware design is, I would say, compliance led products optimize the rule and checklist, where compliance aware product optimizes the users while making the rules visible and operatable within the system. At leadership level, that mindset and that mindset shift matters a lot. because becoming a single one who tells you what needs to be trusted, how needs to be designed, especially as a products became more automative and then the AI is emerging and it is getting more AI
I
driven.
mean, typically, people have been taking compliance only to ensure that we don't get caught in the audits, right? What they
That's true.
what they miss is that compliance is not only to save you from the audits. Audits are there to only check whether you are doing the right, following right compliance or not. But compliance are there for you to embed them into the design itself, whether
Exactly.
it's a product or it's a technical system, right? Anything. At the core of it, basically, right? So
Absolutely.
what I understand from the discussion so far is that product. So AI is actually maybe speeding up the product decisions, but what actually determines the trust and the success is that how much domain context, regulatory context a person is having, right? Or that is built into the system. Now, if I move to the future, basically, talking about how responsibility, how success is changing into this new reality about AI. So, as a product owner, how do you see the as a product leader rather? How do you see the role of product owner evolving, uh, especially in terms of how the success will be defined and how the responsibility or the accountability will be owned in the AI era?
So I think AI has become the embedded into the systems by default. The role of the product reader is quietly fundamentally changes. Earlier, success was about to shipping up right features, delivering the adaptation. Going forward, success will look like more whether the decision a product makes and a consistency is right or wrong.
Yeah.
And when they are not, what happens if the system fails? And if it is fails, how are you going to handle it safely? So decision ownership moves closer to the product. We have no longer enabling just a user to decide. In many cases, the product deciding for itself. That means that product leaders are expected to define autonomy to sit it there, what good it will look like, and how the system is going to take a pause, or if it needs to be escalated further. What matter more than a tool or judgment is the context
Yeah.
and understanding the domain. We were talking about domain also. So understanding the domain, the risk being wrong, the human impact, all these things needs to be worked internally first, and accountability which is going to be there because as the AI is emerging for the future of the product also, the AI is there, so it is going to influence the outcome. You cannot keep your distance yourself saying that the system has decided and I'm not going to do my work. No, but then product leaders or product will expect to stand beyond these, uh, you know, working on those outcomes closely with the data, risk teams. You still have owning the intent of that product. Overall, next few years, I will say strong product leadership won't be able to move faster with AI. It will be moving retrospectively, responsibly, and willing to own the consequences of this automated decisions at higher scale or whatever the scale we have built it up.
Yeah, I think that's what I was uh, thinking. And primarily, when we are saying that AI is influence the outcomes more directly nowadays, right?
Hmm.
I personally think that in the coming times, the product or leaders would be expected to own the AI decisions more explicitly. Uh, but what I'm keen to understand is that if a decision that has been taken by the AI, if it goes wrong or the outcome is wrong, then will the product leaders will be still expected to own the outcome?
Oh yes, definitely. I definitely think that the product leaders will be expected to own AI influence decision more explicitly, especially when it outcomes don't go as planned.
Yeah,
As AI moves, we from assisting the decisions, shaping them up, accountability that cannot disappear from the system. That has to be there. Somebody has to take the accountability of decisions. So the system decided. Isn't it sufficient explanation for its, for itself? Like every AI income, sorry, every AI outcome reflects choices, human made or data based, or trade-offs accepted, what trade-offs were set. Product leaders may not build those models, but they are responsible for the intent and behind those decisions, the impact they have on the users and the business. At the same time, accountability should not be translated into parameters or paralysis. The goal isn't to slow the innovation, but to make the ownership explicitly. In practice, that means a clear boundaries, product owns outcomes, and when those lines are clear,
Yeah,
teams can move more faster with the confidence. So when it becomes a critical, deciding things, owning the things, the audit trails, and the ability decisions were needed. I think these weren't the control added. You cannot add these controls later on. They has to be a part of your product itself. And in that sense, mature product leadership in AI driven world isn't about controlling every single decision. It's about being willing to stand behind the system that makes them work.
yeah. So I also believe that AI, like in identity and access management, where I thrive in, uh, we say that intelligence without governance will erode the trust. And while
Correct.
I'm talking to you, it seems like product management is fast approaching to that inflection point, basically, right? Where it's the same
Correct.
thing. If the governance is missing, then the trust is getting eroded. And if I have to, summarize or synthesize what we have discussed so far, it seems like that AI is shifting the product management from retrospective decision making to predictive decision making. Right? Is this a correct
Correct.
right?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And uh, and I feel that in future, whether it is product management or otherwise, it is not about adding more AIs. It's about building a decision system or decision systems, as you call it, that
Mhm.
has more, that can generate more trust, that are being built around human trust, human empathy. That will be the future rather than adding more and more AIs. So, is that a correct inference that I'm drawing from your discussion?
Yes, absolutely. You are there. So, but then the question which I always want to take a pause and, you know, sort on this, like, do we actually need to automate this using AI? Is it,
Yeah,
as I mentioned before, right? Do we actually need that? Because uh, it simply says, the responsibility check what we are doing. We are doing for a senior leadership, that particular pause what we have to take it, asking this question is really matter, because AI scales decision instantly. They are doing their things on their own, but does it actually require to do that? It may be given us, do flexibility a lot thing. So again, coming back to the basic question, the question what usually comes from the management or the leaders, like, can we automate this? But I think the question we should ask to come before that is, should we do this?
yeah.
Do we need to do this? So that's how it is. And I think everybody among us, whosoever watching, our viewers who are working with the product, if they are actually, facing these kind of a problem, I think I have a views to exchange with them, and they can reach out to me. We can have a good conversation over it. We can have a brainstorming sessions to
No, that's a
discuss that.
really, I really like that, openness and offer that you are making, because this will be definitely a practical question, a practical dilemma that people in this field might be having. And having a
Yes.
person or a, seasoned professional like you in this field, it would be really good to hear from you what is happening in this area and what should be done exactly. And
Yes.
I mean, I'm just trying to coming to concluding the discussion, but I still have one because you mentioned, that if anyone is having any challenges, they can reach out to you and discuss with you some challenges. So before even someone does that, I really have one question, that if what is that one question that you want every product owner or product leader whatever as we call, uh, to ask themselves before they are introducing AI into a product.
As I said, do we actually need to automate that?
Yeah,
Because there are few things which you cannot automate. Like, for example, it's a real example. When your stakeholders are giving you what do you see, they're telling you their requirements. Basically, you have to have a pen and paper, you just note it down what they're expecting. Because if you have seen, there is, long time ago there was a LinkedIn post used to get, client needs elephant, but then somebody interpret in a, it's a Chinese whisper kind of a thing.
yeah, yeah,
So it happens in such a way that you try to build something else, you understand something else, even you have a human touch into it, still we do a mistake. Here with the AI, we are taking only data, and data can go wrong at times.
yeah,
But and to come over that, you have to give a solution. So that human touch, because in every single thing, even if you're trying to solve one biscuit or you're trying to sell multimillionaire software to anybody, you have to make it habituated to the people. So I think the first and core foremost question is like, should we need to really do this?
yeah. I think that is not limited to product design, I would say. It is everywhere in whatever field
Correct.
we work, because uh, even before you start working on the user requirement expectations, because many a times even our business users themselves do not know what they want, technically speaking, right? So you have to understand the requirement and see what is the best and optimal way to meet those requirements, instead of taking us a lot of tools, AI, this, that, and let's just put everything into it and wonder why it's not working because we have used all the tools, right?
True.
So that's a really a good input, and I really resonate this with you. So what so there is one thread that has been constantly running into our past 30 minutes, if I'm not wrong, discussion, is that AI doesn't really now make the or reduce the need for a leader. AI is actually amplifying it, right? Because the real differentiator is that as our products are becoming more and more intelligent, the
Hmm.
differentiator would be that how do we design a system intentionally that are made for trust, that are made around accountability and around the human, right? That is
Correct.
what the common thread and theme has been. I really want
Trying
to
to
thank you
find like
for sharing your perspective so candidly. It was really a pleasure to talk to you, Rucha. I mean, I've been looking forward to speak to you because of the kind of overlap I was having in this domain from my past experiences, and
yes,
I know that things have changed a lot after AI has come into it. So I was looking forward
absolutely.
and really appreciate the openness, the clarity that you have brought to a discussion. So really, thank you. Thanks a ton for coming to this podcast and talking to our viewers and to me. It really was a very rich session for me, to be honest with you. And to our viewers, if this is really resonating with you, so I'll continue exploring how leadership, how technology, and how leadership will intersecting in future. You can continue watching my future episodes and all. Thanks, bye, Richa.
Thank you. Thank you.